everybody. This is RJ Owens. I play Baby Francois Mystère.
Hello, I'm Jimmy Slonina.
Hi, this is Kit Chatham of Curios.
This was ALEGRIA.
Hi, my name is Maja Cornejo. I'm the singer of Luxor by Cirque du Soleil.
I'm Emma Stones. I'm an acrobat in Crystal, and you're watching CirqueCast.
So welcome to another episode of CirqueCast. This is episode 4 for season 2, and this will be a discussion episode. And we haven't been together in a while again, so there's a lot of new news to talk about, but mostly about new shows or returning shows. And so joining us is Richard and Max. So let's talk about some really quick news. So Cirque du Soleil, it's now more of a brand, entertainment brand. But now they have a rosé that is inspired by Cirque du Soleil that launched nationwide. For those of you that like to drink wine, I don't drink, so. But I probably will try it. Someone told me you're definitely going to try it now just because it has the Cirque du Soleil name on it, and that's definitely true. So the limited edition wine is going to be, or is available at Albertsons company stores, and the suggested retail price is $19.99. And you can visit the website, which is CirqueDuSoleilWine.com. I don't know. Do you guys drink, or do you guys like wine?
I'm looking up the website right now. I think I need to do a little bit of research on this. So I'll get back to you in a moment.
Bye, Max.
Bye, guys.
It's like we made him a drunk.
I may not be sober by the end of this episode, is what I'm trying to say. So continue as you were.
All right, and good news for Max. Besides that wine he's about to research, is Creative, right? Creative Family Entertainment Centers, or I guess FECs, is heading to Max's area, which is Vaughan, Canada.
Just north of Toronto. This
is where people get to try out different circus skills. It's sort of like a fun Cirque du Soleil sort of camp. And apparently they have a virtual stage where you can take a bow, if that's what you're into. But I'm sure Max is going to go check it out. But yeah, so...
Are you guys going to visit me and
for sure, we're going to visit you. And then we'll go. So Cirque du Soleil announced, basically after much speculation, they are proud to announce that Cirque du Soleil Entertainment Group and real estate developer Ivanhoe Cambridge, owner of the Vaughan Mills, have chosen Vaughan to be the home of the world's first ever indoor Creative Family Entertainment Center, which is scheduled to open in September 2019 at Vaughan Mills.
That's right on the subway line. So if you're in Toronto, you can get there by public transit. So I know my go-to place to hang out once that opens.
When there's no Cirque show in town?
Yeah.
Well, you have a full year or over a year to save up some money. I don't know how much that will cost, but you'll have to let us know how it is.
I will go out and report on the field for you guys.
All right.
And for those, send in my special reporter pack for you.
And for those of you who cannot attend Creative in Vaughan or don't have a Cirque du Soleil show going to your area soon, you can watch a Cirque du Soleil show on TV now through Broadway HD, which is a streaming service. So they have picked up some of the Cirque shows. Previously, we had them in. You could see them on Hulu and on iTunes. I'm not sure if they're still on iTunes. There was a time where they were removed, but Hulu definitely removed them.
There's actually a whole bunch on Google Play now.
Really? So for purchase or?
For purchase and for rent. And what's of note for that, and it's maybe on iTunes too, but I don't use iTunes, so you might have to do your own research if you're an iTunes user, is that Curios and Lucia are on there in high definition.
Really?
Yes. You can buy it in high definition.
Which is something that Richard and I have talked about. Why don't they just release these awesomely shot shows in HD? And, because when you see it, you only see that crappy DVD quality. Not that the show was filmed, bad, but the quality that you're watching it is just, it just doesn't do any justice to the show. But like with Hulu, only a few titles are available on Broadway HD, and that's Alegria, Leon, Cusa, Nueva Experience, Saltimbanco, Amaluna, Delirium, Taruk, The First Flight, and then 2 documentaries, which is A Thrilling Ride Through Cusa and Taruk Takes Flight. So if you're interested in that, check it out. But you do have to sign up for that service, and then it started on June 7th. And that's it for the quick news. Now we can
I have another one. If I can step in, if that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm not a Bell subscriber, but in Canada, if you have Bell TV, you can go and watch Volta, and that seems to be the only place where you can see a full filmed version of that show.
Right, because the DVD is not out yet, even though it was filmed. I don't know what's going on with that. I wonder if it has anything to do with... I feel like Volta is cursed. It's a cursed show. Unfortunately, the whole accident happened. Before that, attendance wasn't that great. And then after that, definitely, they had to cancel some shows. And then they're going through some changes, which I guess we can talk about them now. So I saw the show originally in Toronto with Max, and then I saw it in Miami, and they were already making changes. But then now that I saw it in Uniondale, they completely changed the storyline. So the Woz character is no longer the game show host. Now you have this character named Mr. Wow, which, okay, I love Volta, but this just doesn't make sense to me. So what happens now, Woz is a contestant on the show, and so basically he's dancing on the show, trying to become one of the elites, I guess. They still have the elites. But see, now this is where the classes don't make sense anymore. So Mr. Wow doesn't talk. He doesn't say anything at all, except he goes, whenever the contestants go up, they do a little routine. He either says wow or nothing. And that means that, they're in or not. And so when Woz does his performance, the cool part about this was, so now there's a little bit of juggling, because that's one of the participants, that's what they did, and then a Sir Wheel, which we see it everywhere, but it's basically like a show within the show. And then Woz does his dancing routine, and a little dancing routine, and then I believe he's wearing like a hat or a beanie. I can't remember exactly, but when they take it off, that's when they reveal his blue feathered hair, and that's when the whole thing starts again, where he just runs. But what doesn't make sense is that he wasn't known before that, so he's just a contestant. He's not the godlike figure that he was before. So they still have sort of like the newspaper where people are taking pictures of him, and Woz is on the newspaper, and so it just doesn't make sense because he wasn't known. Why are people so like intrigued now with this guy that they didn't really know before? And so to me, it just takes away. From what I understand, they were trying to change it to where people would identify with the character more, sort of him starting from the bottom and then going to the top. But there is no top.
But that's why I like the older version of that character, because you're seeing him
vulnerable
from what you would assume to be the top, and he still has his demons that he has to face with. I think that's
Exactly.
one of the most that's the interesting part about that character, is that everybody in that show views him as like, oh my god, look at how successful he is. He's hosting this game show. Look at how well established he is. And yet there's so many insecurities and so many challenges that this character has to face.
Yeah, they're pretty much gone now.
That's really disappointing.
It is, and I totally like when I saw it. I was excited to see the changes, and I understood why they were making changes. But to me, it's just I don't identify with the character anymore, And it's a shame because Joey, who plays Waz, he did such a great job. Like he played Waz in such a way that borderline arrogant, and then when you see him not in his costume, it's not the person you thought it was. And now they just I feel like they totally ruined the character. And then not only that, so Mr. Wow, who you're supposed to see as this big figure, it's also the clown, or at least he was when I saw it, because the clown is that character now. So then,
is this the person that replaced Wayne Wilson?
Yes.
Okay.
So now, Mr. Wow is also the clown. So I don't know. I just don't like seeing him as Mr. Wow in that gold costume, and then him being silly with the washing machine routine and all that. So I don't know. I'm just very confused about it. I don't know if it's temporary. I don't know if they're still making changes. I hope they change it back. But I don't see why they would go through all those changes only to, go back to what it was before. I'm so confused. I don't know.
And that's not something that Cirque du Soleil does when they make changes. I don't remember a show where they've made drastic changes and then gone, you know what, we like the original version better. We're going to go back to that.
Yeah. I don't know. But again, maybe it has to do with, the whole creative team was pretty much like, oh, they're no longer with Cirque. So it's not the original directors who are making these changes. We'll see what else happens with Volta. Hopefully, I know previously there were just speculation and rumors that the show may not have, it wasn't going to continue much longer after, the whole accident. Hopefully that's not the case, because they seem to be struggling, it looks like, with attendance. But also, I think it has to do with Uniondale. I think that location was not great. I'm not from the New York area, but I just can't see people traveling from Manhattan to Long Island to watch the show.
I think the whole Volta tour has been kind of screwy from the beginning, really, when you think about it. The cities that they've chosen and where it's gone at first. This doesn't seem like it's in the right place at the right time. And then to split New York into, Long Island and, excuse me, in its other location, and it's like, well, why would you choose that? You had a perfect location. People knew exactly where it was. It's a location you've been using for quite a while. And then you decide you're going to go ahead and split and change and do Long Island and do this other. Why?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why. Why not just leave it in Manhattan or that area?
I think that area wasn't available for the time they chose to be there, which is also another part of their screwy tour, it seems to me. Why Miami so early? Why Tampa so early? Atlanta, what happened to us? I know when we're getting it. If the show is still around by then, I hope. But I got quite a while to wait for it to come here.
So now, because now there's only 2 arena shows, right, touring right now in the U.S., which is Crystal and Corteo. And then you have Lucia and Volta. I think that's it, right, in the U.S.?
Sounds about right. And then we'll have Alegria next year.
So, I don't know why they did that tour schedule. It's weird. But I hope that everything goes well for Volta, because I really do like it. I hope the DVD is released soon, or at least the digital version of it, so we can all watch it, and not just the Bell subscribers, Bell TV subscribers. It's like we're spoiled because the US gets everything, and then now we don't, and we're like, we want it.
Hey, I went through my entire childhood being like, oh my god, this is airing on a US network and I don't have it. I mean, I'm not a Bell subscriber, but I mean, Cirque's Canadian, and especially recently they seem to have a pretty tight partnership with Bell. They did Lucia before the DVD got released before that, so
all right, crossing our fingers, I guess.
Hopefully there's something that you can actually purchase in the next little while.
Right.
So did you get to see the new trampoline wall?
Oh, I did. It was awesome. It was great. I really enjoyed it. I think it adds a lot to the show. And the only thing I didn't like, which you can tell that it's an act placed after the whole. Well, now, so first of all, there are no more, the trial bike act. So the lifts aren't really used, and parkour's not there anymore. So parkour's out. So the lifts aren't really used anymore. So, so for trampoline, the trampoline, because it's they have the tramps on both sides, and there's they have people around the trampoline sort of pushing it to rotate it, and that could easily been something like if that was part of the initial show, have the stage actually rotate instead of having people push it out. That's the only thing I didn't like. You can tell that that's sort of an afterthought, but at least it's nice that they're actually rotating it, and everyone in the audience can see a different point of view. But it was great. I liked it. I know Doug, who I saw the show with, he enjoyed the trample wall as well. I mean, it's no La Nuba, but that.
You're never gonna get that into 10, though.
You can. I think that's probably a good. First try, and if they had, put it on some kind of platform that could revolve, like, for Verikai or something like that, or Kidam, any show that's got a revolving platform, then it probably would have worked just fine.
But it was good. I liked it.
And what about the twins? How do you feel about the Atherton twins going into Volta?
So I'm excited.
Wait, that's a thing?
Yes, that is it.
Wow.
They're joining Volta for, I think, a few months. I think 2 cities.
I've heard up to 3, but, things change. So.
But I heard, and we'll talk about it in a little bit, they can only stay for that long because they're going to another show. But to be continued, yes, in just a little bit. But so I'm excited because I'm thinking that the reason why they're joining the show is to do the straps act that Jan and is it Pavel? I think his name is who did the strap acts when the accident happened, and I think that's what they're joining. Hopefully, that whole act was removed when I saw the show. So, which was one of my favorite parts. I think that was one of the biggest parts in the show. You know what I'm talking about? I can't remember what they call that.
The Battle of the Men scene with like the drummers hanging from the Yeah, I love that scene.
So do I, but it was out when I saw it in Unidale. So I don't know if it was out that day or it's been out since they came back. So and I know that people say the twins, it's the same routine over and over again, but I would imagine that it'll be different for Volta because they sort of had a routine already set up, and unfortunately just didn't work out. But so if it's like that, I think it'll be great. It will add to the show. I thought that the Straps act was basically the act that they needed for that part of the show. So, because I don't want to see Baton during that part, and I don't want to see Unicycle during that part. Unicycle's fine, but just change it to. They had changed it to the first part of the show. It just doesn't fit in that part of the show. So
Yeah, I think I said that earlier. That's a scene where like there's so much action. And like not to like this unicycle or anything like that, but like you need a big act that is surrounding around it, because there's
Right.
if it's not a big act, you're just watching the epicness that is happening across the rest of the tent at that time.
Exactly. So I mean, I don't know. Why did you ask, Richard? Do you feel differently? I mean, are you indifferent about it, or?
No. Just wondered. Because I haven't seen Volta, so I really don't have much of an opinion on it. I'd love to at least see the recording, if anything else. But just knowing that they are going to be put into the show, wondered how you felt about that, since you've seen it.
Yeah. One of the other changes was, I think, when we saw it, the ladder. You know how they had 2 ladders, so the ladders act. It was only one, and they sort of placed it in the middle instead of to the side. So it's still an okay act, but I like it better in the middle. There's no need for 2 of them, to be honest with you, in my opinion. But at least they made that change. If it's going to be one for now, at least put it in the middle. So I like that change. I didn't see Unicycle. Unicycle was that when I saw it, but I know the artists are still with the show, so it may just be part of all those changes that they're making. Baton was still in it. Like I said, no parkour. Basketball was gone. It's been a lot of changes in the show.
Yeah.
Hope it does okay. I can't really think of another tent show that has closed or even planned to close so soon. Or even people like, talking about it. So I hope Volta does well, because I really, really liked it when I saw it in Toronto. I thought it was a great show.
I think so too. I just think people love hating on that show because it's so different. But if they actually see the show and some of the elements in that show, which are really beautiful, I think if you break it down like that, you'll see that maybe it's not that bad of a show. I know it's. I think originally the extreme sports and the millennial being the target
that
sort
was a
of
bad
put
way
off
to
people.
advertise it.
Right, exactly. And people were put off by that.
Yeah, saying the show was about extreme sports was definitely a bad way to sort of introduce that show to people, because if you've seen Volta, it's really not what that show is about.
Well, I think the problem is that that's what they were going for at the beginning, and then things just changed. Because if you see some of the videos, you see some of the acts that they were trying, and they were a little on the extreme sports side, but I think it just morphed into something different. And then by then, people already knew or thought that it was going to be extreme sports, and it's not.
Well, all their free advertisement and stuff, pretty much pushed that angle. And then, it started so far in advance. And then when the show finally came out, they didn't really change their advertisement much. They pretty much just stuck with what they had. And then as the show premiered and began to morph and change, then some of their stuff got updated. But by then, everybody kind of said, "Oh, this is not about extreme sports." I don't
right.
think
They had already formed an opinion based on what they heard.
Yeah.
So,
like I said, hopefully, when the show appears here in Atlanta, as scheduled sometime next year, it'll be a show that I recognize. I haven't seen it. It's the first one I haven't seen in a long time at premieres, so I'm not quite sure what I'm going to get when it gets here.
maybe a better show.
Maybe.
It definitely sounds like it's going to be a very different show from the one that me and Jose saw.
Yeah.
I think when we saw it, Max, they were heading in the right direction.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know what happened.
Again, all this stuff makes me feel kind of upset, because when we saw it, I really liked that production. I thought that it had so much heart to it. And what I'm hearing now about the characters changing and the story changing, it's kind of bumming me out.
Yep.
I think all they probably need to do then, based on what I'm hearing from you guys, is just put the character back the way it was. and let the acts that they have integrated into the show stay. So let the trampo wall stay and anything else that they've changed acrobatically. And I think if they were to do that, it probably would be a much better show.
But I'll tell you what, like the main acts, like the hoop diving and like the rings act, I think those, every time I've seen it, they definitely get better. And I know someone, our friend Doug, he's not really into the hoop diving act, but man, I think that act is just so fun. And I remember turning to his, because I was sitting next to his niece, and I just turned, and then she was like, "Yeah, that's how you do hoops," because it was great. Like there. I mean, you can tell that they're trying new stuff, and the guys that do the hoop diving, like they just have so much fun up there. And you know, they're actually one of the acts that do sort of a little, like, you know, they dance during that act. So I really like that. So I think once you see it, Richard, I mean, I think once they are set on the changes, they make all the changes, and then you see the show, you're gonna see, I hope, a great show. We're gonna see a great show because I'll go and see it with you.
Come on, Max.
I'm coming to Montreal next year. I'll see you guys then.
Let's
well,
see.
I guess that's a good segue then.
So what Max is talking about is he's going to Montreal to see the return of the iconic show Alegria, which Cirque announced was they were bringing back.
Which was a surprise to no one.
Which was a surprise because we talked about it previously. I mean, in one of our episodes. I think our episode
surprise to me at that point when we talked about it.
That is true because we mentioned it and Max is like, "Wait, what?
Yeah,
like, you didn't know that?"
If you go back to that episode, you can see myself, like, my brain shut down as you guys are talking about it. Because I had no idea. I mean, we've talked for a long time about the idea of, like, how cool it would be for them to resurrect an old show and bring it back for you know, a new generation of people. But, oh boy. That was a moment.
And then, like, when you would hear something like that, you would hear, like, maybe Kidam. You know, Kidam might come back, you know, but...
I didn't think Kidam just because, like, it didn't close that long ago.
Well, I think it wasn't that they were thinking about it. I think it's most of the fans were like, bring back Kidam. You know, why did you close it? So a lot of people love Kidam. And not that... I mean, Alegria is great as well. You know, it's one of the... It's the most iconic Cirque du Soleil song. Everyone knows Alegria. So yeah, so it's like it's an iconic show and it's a great show. My friend who she's seen other Cirque shows. She's not like a Cirque fan, but you know she's seen shows with me. Her first show was Alegria, and every time we see a new show, she goes, "This is no Alegria. It's like it's not the same." So I mean, I think it has to do with that being her first show, but it is a great show. So I'm excited for that, and like you know, like we said, we mentioned it before, but I was happy to finally hear the official word from Cirque du Soleil. And
now we just got to hear all the changes they may make to that. Waiting.
That's true because they're updating it, but we don't know what that means.
About that, I think it'll stay. I think I would hope that it would stay fairly similar.
This is the same company that has changed the show you really liked.
Just give this to me, please. I need it. I didn't have a great day at work. I need this one. Just give me this one. By the way, the story of Alegria coming back was something I am a freelancer for a news channel here in Toronto, and we rarely, I mean, obviously they don't talk about Cirque du Soleil stories all the time, but it did come up in our newscast that Alegria was coming back, and I think that just shows how big of a story this is. That, like, yeah, local news stations here in Canada were picking up this story.
Well,
so Cirque du Soleil, Max says, don't change Alegria too much.
Please.
Or he's going to be disappointed.
Well, if it makes you feel better, the changes in Volta is because they thought that it wasn't doing that great. So
if they change the Storm Act, I'm gonna be so upset because I think that scene is perfect the way that
if they even have a Storm Act.
Oh boy.
Give this to Max. Come on, Jose. He needs that.
He's like, I'm selling my ticket.
I'm not. I am very excited about going to Montreal and seeing it with you. It was something that I was considering that day just because I pretty much thought that they were going to come to Toronto afterwards. But I was at work and my producer came up to me and he was like, so you're going to Montreal next year, right? I was like, they might come to Toronto. I can wait a couple months until they come to Toronto. And then he looked at me and was like, no, you're going to Montreal next year for this. So I bought my ticket.
Yeah, and I think that was the cool part about it too. Like that day when it was announced, people were like, okay, well, we need to go to the premiere, and I had several friends ask me, are you going? I'm like, well, I'm going to wait to buy my tickets. And then our friend Doug's like, I bought tickets. And I'm like, no, you're not. No, what? Why? And then I'm like, crap, I need to buy tickets too. And then Rich was like, crap, I bought tickets too. And then like we hear Max is buying them too. And so now I think it's going to be like this big group of fans, like true fans actually going to the premiere or premiere weekend to see this show returning. And I mean,
I'm pretty sure as of this recording, there are tickets still available for the premiere.
I think some of the things that they might change, for example, are maybe the costumes. I know that Alegria previously went to Arena, but when I visited Corteo, when it came to Houston, I asked about the costumes, if they were the exact same costumes from the tent show, and basically they told me everything, like the costumes look the same, but it's different material because of the whole traveling weekly, and now there's different types of fabrics that they're using that are lighter, but the actual design of the costumes are the same. So I imagine that some of that stuff will be done as well with Alegria. I hope they don't change the music. I was listening to the soundtrack earlier, and I mean, music changes a little bit with every show, but I hope they don't add like new songs or anything like that. I doubt it, because it sounds like they want to bring back the actual Alegria show and just sort of update it to whatever new technology they have.
I think that's probably what they should do. If they're thinking of anything else, don't do it. Just update the technology if you're going to, and make it easier to travel. But I think most everybody wants to see the original show. So it'll be interesting if they bring back like Aerial Cube and some of the other pieces that have were in Alegria at first. So I'm interested to see what acrobatics are going to be in the show. Is it going to be as the show ended, or ended its its big top life, or will it be the original show, trying to get the whole shoulder pole thing and aerial cube and some of that. So we'll have to see.
That's what I was thinking too, because I was going through the soundtrack of it a little while ago, and remembered that there was a couple of songs of the soundtrack that they didn't really use later on during the show. So maybe they might go into their archives a little bit and pick out, a couple of songs or maybe even a couple of acts that they liked and want to bring back to this new production.
Well, they just need to be careful because you don't want to piss off all these fans. But we're never happy, so it doesn't even matter.
As long as I can see Storm again, I think I'll be happy.
Oh, let's hope Storm's in the show, because if not, Max may cry.
I think I will cry regardless.
Well, that should be a fun weekend, though.
I think it'll be a little bit of an emotional night for all of us there.
So, Alegria is premiering in Montreal on April 18th, 2019, so next year.
And there are still tickets available as of this recording. I am on the website right now. And if you want to go to the premiere and meet up with us, there are tickets.
Yeah, everyone will be there. And if you go, Max will give you one of his rosé Cirque du Soleil wine bottles.
I will. It'll be empty, but I will give you the bottle.
But the bottle will probably be a collector's item. You can't give that away.
He's going to take off the label.
Oh, I'll frame it.
All right, so
I guess the one show none of us are going to get to see is the new show in India, huh? Bazzar?
Yeah. Yeah. So, Cirque du Soleil announced that new show, Bazzar, that we previously talked about, a show premiering in India. We know the name, but they finally announced it. And yeah, it's Bazzar, the first Cirque show to ever premiere in India. I don't know how I feel about this. I mean, I saw the announcement. I saw their logo and their
teaser video.
The teaser video, and then the graphic that they released with the name, with the logo, and I don't know. It feels like I hope this is just for now. To me, it seems like someone said, "Hey, your deadline is in 30 minutes. Just do a quick graphic." But I'm sure that's not or it may not be an indication of the show. I mean, I saw the teaser, and the music sounds okay, and then but most of the stuff that you could see in the teaser was actually dancing, costumes, what you would expect from Cirque du Soleil. But I was on Instagram Live earlier, talking to some other fans, and someone said that they didn't like the idea of Bazzar because it's just basically it's a show to get attention. That's what they said. But that's what Cirque is all about. I've said it a million times. It's a business, and they are trying to make money, and that's what they do it, right? So just like Lucia was sort of it's an advertising show for Mexico, and it is what it is, right? So I hope that Bazzar. Well, I guess let's just talk about what the show is about, or what Cirque du Soleil told us. So Cirque du Soleil Bazzar is an eclectic lab of infinite creativity where a joyful troupe of acrobats, dancers, and musicians craft an awe-inspiring spectacle. Led by their maestro, they band together to invent a whimsical, one-of-a-kind universe. In a place where the unexpected is expected, the colorful group reimagines, rebuilds, and reinvents vibrant scenes in an artistic, acrobatic game of order and disorder. It really doesn't tell me anything, except there's going to be a lot of color. I guess the name sort of... I like that the name sort of goes with, where they're premiering. They mentioned the marketplace. But other than that, I don't know. I guess I don't really have much of an opinion on Bazzar. I haven't really seen much that sort of intrigues me. So I don't know if this will be a show that I would travel to see. And it is supposed to be a smaller show, more intimate. I do like that. It's going to be a smaller tent. It's going to fit less people. But I don't know that I would travel.
that's one of the things that really interests me. And I think what I'm picking up from the show is I don't want to say like they're going back to their roots, but this sort of has the feeling of a more older Cirque show from like the late 80s, early 90s, and especially with the theater being, or the tent being, I think it was like 1,500 seats. I don't know, maybe you'll get sort of like the feeling of like a Cirque reinvent or Nouvelle Experience kind of thing. I think that would be, if that's sort of where they're going with this, that would be kind of a cool thing to see.
Would you travel to see the show?
Oh God, no. Let's put this into perspective. Whereas like a month or two ago, I was like, should I travel from Toronto to Montreal to see a Cirque du Soleil show? If I'm considering that one thing, there's no way I'm going to India.
Well, we don't know if the show is eventually coming to the U.S. I would imagine not, because they're using it to go to, sort of the markets that they haven't been to. So it's premiering in India, and then it's making a stop in Greece, and then it's going to visit various countries in the Middle East. So who knows? I mean, it's a small show. You can probably take it to those smaller U.S. cities that, can't really sustain a full month big top show.
That's what I was thinking too. I mean, even within North America, there's certain cities that they could go to. They've already said that the budget for this show is lower than other traditional, or like the big top shows that they do. So that might be another tactic that they use in addition to like the arena shows to go into smaller markets.
Who knows? Did they say when it was premiering? I know it's premiering this year. I think I had heard from someone at Cirque previously what they originally thought would have been Alegria, but I thought it was too soon. Was in November. But then they said it might be that new India show. So, Ray, we were just talking about Bazzar, which was recently announced, that Cirque du Soleil show that is going to India.
Oh gosh, how do I say this? We'll see how it goes.
Well, we're saying, like, for me, I don't know. I don't have much of an opinion about Bazzar from what I've heard, but I do like the that it's going to be more intimate. It's a smaller tent show, and hopefully that means that it can visit. I know it's right now they're aiming for India, Greece, and then some Middle East countries, but maybe that means that they can bring it to the smaller cities in the U.S. that cannot hold a big top show for longer than a month. Austin is basically one of those markets that, we had Kuza here prior to that. 10 years before that, it was Verikai, but it took 10 years for Kuza to come, and it was only because they were going to, I think, Australia, but then they did like 2 or 3 cities in the U.S. before going back. So that was not really a tour stop that was planned for Kuza. So who knows? Maybe if that is successful, they'll start doing those type of shows, those smaller shows. I don't know how I feel about that necessarily, but at least other people who cannot, afford or who to go travel to see a Cirque show can now have them in their cities.
For me, it's not a matter of affordability per se. It feels like the cheapening of Cirque du Soleil for me. Yeah. Which there's just so many things, especially working for them on the back end kind of side. And the budget cuts that we already deal with being the #1 show in Las Vegas, I just don't understand why we're trying to open up shows that are subpar, in my opinion.
But we've already had sort of shows like that. You have the 45-degree shows that are meant to be,
Right.
special events, smaller shows.
But I don't know. 40. I mean, if you want to make it a 45-degree show, then make it a 45-degree show. Don't say this is the new Cirque du Soleil. We're gonna cut everything. We're gonna reuse stages and bring in smaller markets for less money.
It's funny that this argument keeps coming back because we've talked about. For me, it was if you're gonna have a 45-degree show, then have a 45-degree show, but make sure that you say it's a 45-degree show. But Cirque is not gonna do that.
Right.
But for example, I think now the quality of those shows are becoming better each time. Crystal, I saw, which is a 45-degree show, and I absolutely loved. So I don't think necessarily now that's a problem, but I understand where you're coming from. Sort of, you know, it seems like a cheaper version of Cirque.
My big issue, especially with shows like Crystal, not necessarily shows like Hoya, because Hoya is kind of its own thing. But my issue with shows like Crystal, I guess we haven't talked about it. It's not marketed as a 45-degree show. It's marketed as a Cirque du Soleil show, and a lot of people don't understand the difference. I don't know. It's hard when we have shows that meet the standards of other shows. That's tough because it cheapens the brand.
I don't know. I think we could have the 45 degrees argument all day long because we have touched on it, and it's. I mean, we can obviously tell now that Cirque is not going to change that. That is how they're marketing the show, because after all, that is the known brand, which is Cirque du Soleil. Right. It does suck that you have all these different shows sort of made by different divisions, but they're marketed all the same. And I mean, this goes back all the way to Taruk, you know, when even Cirque had a problem because they didn't know how to market it. You know, when I spoke to the marketing team, when I visited the headquarters, that was one of the things that they talked about. How do we market Taruk? Is it a Cirque du Soleil show, or is it just a Avatar-inspired show that was produced by Cirque du Soleil? You know, and I think that does that. I think
too, in that aspect, like a good way to market that is Crystal or Taruk. By 40 or like a 45-degree show produced by Cirque du Soleil. Like it needs like a degree of separation for the general public. Like they can still say we're funded and produced by Cirque du Soleil, but we're not one of the official, you know, set large production scales. I had a guest about a week ago that was like, we're just brand new to Cirque. We looked at all our first show was Taruk, and we had no idea what to expect. And they were like, but from there, the next one we saw was Curios. And after seeing Curios, they're like, our level of professionalism, I guess, or production value was so much greater in Curios than what they saw in Taruk. That's a huge gap. It just can't be marketed all the same. And just box everything. This is who we are as a company, because it's not.
But I think for marketing purposes, Cirque du Soleil is a business. The brand is going to sell, and that's what they need. That's what they need to do, right? So people are not going to know what 45 degrees is. I mean, you can definitely say Crystal by 45 degrees, say Cirque du Soleil company, but look at how long it takes to say that, and you're not going to have that on your marketing material.
Okay, I guess the better way to do that would be up the production value across the board, and it doesn't matter. I wouldn't care. Up the ante on 45-degree shows. If you're going to call them Cirque du Soleil, they need to be on par with O. They need to be on par with Ka. They need to be on par with Curios. They need to be on par with Kuza. You need to have shows that set a standard, because otherwise people don't know what they're expecting. Whether they're going to get a great show or a terrible show, they have no idea what they're expecting, because there's no. It just seems like there's no product quality that there's a standard on. Because when you see O versus Crystal, those are two completely different production values on shows. And even though it's the same company, those are like two separate companies, it looks like, that are produced.
But you're going to have that regardless. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think that, like, budget and production value necessarily means that it's going to be a good show. I think that, I mean, I like a lot of the older Cirque du Soleil shows where they didn't have the budget that they do right now. I think that there are many aspects to producing a high-quality Cirque show. Yeah, budget may be one of them, but man, writing and talent that they have in that show are definitely important. So I think if they can have a lower budget show that is high quality, that is well written, that has really solid performers in it, and the lower budget allows them to sort of diversify more and go into smaller markets, I think that can be a pretty positive thing for them.
Yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing on like the well doneness of a show or that, but I'm saying shows that are either not doing so well or that have bad reviews or performing poorly. Not necessarily like the production, the money spent on it doesn't matter. It's the quality of the show overall. And for shows like Turek, I know most people I talk to that have seen Turek love it, but don't love it as a Cirque du Soleil show. They love it as, oh, that was the coolest production visual I've ever seen done, but the show itself, quality or like story-wise or quality-wise or all of that performer-wise was lacking. And I think when you put those shows up against things like O or things like Ka or Curios or, you know, the more loved shows, it just doesn't add up. It doesn't stack up against the competition.
See,
do you think that has to do with the quality more than the theming of the show? I mean, Ka is a huge show, multi-million-dollar show, and to me, it puts me to sleep. I don't like Ka.
I was just about to say that and say that I might get into trouble for saying this, but I'm not a fan of Ka.
And it's a huge production, show, right?
Is the tech and the budget, and like it's amazing. But like as a show, I found it kind of boring, and I'd rather go to like the TI and see Mystère, which is a much smaller show than Ka is.
The thing is, sometimes all these shows have the ingredients that they need for to be a great show, but it just doesn't call everyone. So I don't think,
or it might even be that like Ka was too much. Like, they threw so much production and so many special effects into that show. And the story I found just kind of lackluster. It didn't really interest me through the whole 90 minutes of it. And I have friends that feel the exact same way about that show as well.
No, I feel the exact same way. Ka is their least performing show in Las Vegas. I mean, in terms of ticket sales, they're definitely the lowest. There's a reason for that. A lot of people don't associate that with being a better Cirque du Soleil production because it's slower paced, and a lot of people know that. I'm not saying more money equals a better show. I think there's a level of quality, and I use Ka as a bad example, but shows like O, stacked against some of these newer shows, there's just such a gap between what a good show is versus you can tell it's obviously for the money rather than.
But I tell you, I know people who think OVO is better than O, believe it or not. And I think so. It's just a matter of taste.
Yeah, and that's true too. I was gonna say I tell guests all the time. It depends on what you're looking for in a show. But I think with some of the newer shows, there's definitely received an unfavorable public opinion versus some of the other shows. And OVO is a great show, was a great show. Not so much anymore. And those are fine opinions, and it depends on what you. But shows like that, from that premiered in the last 5 years, are the same quality as the shows that premiered 20 years ago. But it's the newer shows that have premiered in the last couple of years that, for me, seem to just drop off the edge of what's okay for Cirque to be putting out. And I also think there's a level of oversaturation as well in the company that not many other people agree with me on that.
With you on that they're pushing out too many shows in a very short period of time.
Yeah,
for a long time.
There's just too much. The level is too high. And working at O and having we just had the big staff meeting for Cirque in Las Vegas with talks of replacing Criss Angel's Mindfreak live show. And a big point that they pointed out was that they're trying to expand the market in Las Vegas even, and not trying to cut anything out. When some of the shows, in my opinion, even just in Las Vegas as a microcosm, we're already so oversaturated, we can't fill up anything. Out of working here for a year and a half, O is the only show in Las Vegas that consistently sells out every night. Everything else is, in my opinion, underperforming. You could argue Michael Jackson 1 does a lot, almost as much ticket sales as O, but to me, again, that's just subpar show for me.
No, that's right. Like Richard has mentioned that before. He definitely does feel that they're saturating the market, and it's understandable. I mean, because eventually, more shows means you have to make more space for them, which means these shows have to close. And they all have to reach their end at some time, but hopefully it's not too soon.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see how Bazzar turns out. I'm not traveling for it.
Well, no, I won't be traveling for it either. And I mean, I don't mind, I guess, the what am I trying to say? The experiment of it. I just don't necessarily want it to become the norm.
Right. And I think that's why I'm not too upset about it, because they're still making those big top shows, even though too many people weren't happy with Volta, but they're still making those shows that we like.
Why? I heard Volta's doing great. What's been going on?
That was an hour ago, Max.
With Volta, right?
I think he already found that wine. He's drinking that rosé.
Yeah.
No comment.
My big issue with Bazzar so far, I really haven't seen anything on it. I really hope they don't use Keaton's stage. I know it's in the rehearsal footage, and I just really hope that that's not the case, because that's my.
I don't think it is, though. I really don't think it is.
That's kind of sad for me to repurpose in that way.
I don't know. I mean, and you would think that if it's going to be, well, I don't know. If it's going to be a smaller show, I don't know if the stage will be the same size anyway.
Right. And that's what I was thinking too. But in the sense of budgeting, it makes a lot of sense. To reuse something that you already have on file and not have to make another stage and another set, and all of that makes perfect sense. You're trying to do things on a budget.
Unless, this whole Alegria coming back is sort of a success, and then you want to use that stage again to bring back the show in the future, if it does ever happen.
For me, Bazzar seems like it's going to be a short-run show. I don't see
most
this
likely.
just so I can put my bet on there. I'll give it 3 years, if that. That's like a generous amount.
Are we placing bets on this?
Well, 3 years sounds to me. It sounds like a lot. I don't know. I was thinking maybe 2 years, but I don't know.
I know it does. That's why I'm saying I'm being generous, because I only gave Baruch a year, and it's still going. So.
Oh yeah, it is going. It's still going.
I mean, 3
It's
years.
still going. Sometimes I have to remind myself that it's still there.
Although you got to imagine it's got to be winding down in the next couple of years.
A lot.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I like Taruk.
Well, then look at Septimo Dia is going to end soon, so.
Well, that should have ended a while ago anyway. Well, didn't they cancel one show in Miami because of low ticket sales?
Low attendance, yeah.
It's just not a show for the U.S. I mean, and it wasn't really marketed for the U.S. to begin with. So, but I mean, it did great in South America. People love that show down there because they identify with it. They identify with the music. They grew up with it, and I mean, it makes sense down there. It just doesn't make sense here. I would have liked to seen it just to, to see it, but it's not something that I was willing to travel for. I'd rather repeat a show. All right. So enough of Bazzar. We already know how we feel. Sort of, I guess we have mixed feelings about it. But you know, we still have a lot to see. We don't know. Sometimes we end up hating a concept of the show, and then we end up loving it. So we'll just have to wait and see, like we normally do. But one show that we don't have to wait and see to see how it turns out is Paramore, which is coming back as well, but they are relocating it to Germany.
Ray looks thrilled.
Why do you look thrilled, Ray?
Not thrilled. Not thrilled. I mean, good for them, but I'm not thrilled. Ruby's not going to be in it, and to me, Iris in Los Angeles will always be my number one for that show, and I'm sad that they didn't do so much of that, and give any credit where credit's due. And Paramore was my favorite. But now that Ruby's not going to be in it, and the twins are not in it, it just doesn't make it worth any trip or effort or anything for me to go see.
Who said the twins are not in it?
Country where I don't speak the language. Huh?
Well, so let's go back really quick. So Paramore is not. I know it has some elements of EDs, but Paramore is not EDs. Especially like after they made all those changes. Sure, it has some of the actual scene elements, and set pieces like the rooftop scene, the film strip scene, which is pretty cool. I do love that part. I don't think that Ruby was Paramore. I think that she was great, but I think another person could have filled in that role and it would have been fine. And third, who says the twins are not going to be in Paramore?
And the twins are going to Volta, so like for me.
Well, they're going to Volta for about 3 cities, and then they're heading to Germany for Paramore.
Oh, are they?
Well, that's the rumor.
Then I have no comment nor opinion.
But yes, I was talking to Doug about the whole relocation of Paramore, and I remember I was just sitting there and I'm like, so are the lyrics going to be in German? And he goes, that's a good question. So I think he actually went and asked Cirque or on one of the Facebook pages, and they confirmed that it was going to be in German. So it kind of sucks because I most of the lyrics or some of the lyrics to the songs and how they go, and I'm not going to be able to sing now, because my German is not good. Actually, it's non-existent. So no more singing along. And someone said, well, it'll be like a regular Cirque song, right? Because you don't really know what they're saying.
Right.
I mean, I like that they're bringing. Well, we knew about Paramore though. We knew when it closed that they were already in talks to take it to Germany. It just took a while for them to actually announce it, or I guess for the deal to close. But for those of you that are in Germany or are going to Germany, the show will premiere. When is it premiering? Oh, in April of 2019. So, the same time that...
so you can either go to Germany or you can go to Montreal.
Montreal, all the way.
I'll be there April 17th, 20th, 2019.
We'll be there too. All of us will be there, actually. But so Alegria is premiering in Montreal and in April 2019, and Paramore is premiering in Germany, Hamburg, Germany, in April of 2019. And Lucia is actually supposedly going to Disney World or the Disney Springs area around March and April of 2019 as well. So if, now you have three options of what you want to see if you can only travel once. I'm really excited about Lucia going to Disney World just because, well, first of all, the Cirque du Soleil show that was there all the time, it's no longer there because they closed it, which is La Nuba, or was La Nuba. So every time I went to Disney World, I had to go see La Nuba, because it's a Cirque show. And now that tradition is sort of gone. But at least this time when I go, I can see at least a Big Top show, which I really like, on Disney World grounds.
I'm waiting for the new show.
Which we haven't heard anything else about the new show. I mean, there hasn't been any news about it.
Yeah, I've actually never been to Disney World, so I've sort of been convincing myself that when they come out with the new permanent show there, then I should go down there and have my Disney experience.
While you cut out, let me tell you about what's going on in Las Vegas. Yeah, it's summertime and business is slow. O's doing great though. We're just fine. But we're gonna get a show called The Jump that's going to premiere as a Cirque du Soleil show at the Luxor, replacing Criss Angel's Mindfreak Live, which will head over to Planet Hollywood as a non-Cirque du Soleil show. So it's rumored that Criss is going to keep his show as is. I don't know how many performers are going to stay, but I know a bunch of them are at the jump ship from the sinking ship that is Criss Angel's Mindfreak Live. And we're going to get a show called The Jump, which is extreme stunt show, an extreme stunt show. So cars, fire, bikes. I don't know how they're going to fit it in the theater.
So what are they calling the Luxor replacement? The Jump?
The Jump. The Jump.
Wow.
I assume there's going to be many jump ramps in there. I don't know how they're going to fit in because that theater is not very big. It's smaller than O, so I don't know. It only seats 1,300?
Wow.
So, and when is that? Do you know when that is?
And they're talking about full-size cars and stuff. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I don't think they need to open another show at Luxor. That's just my opinion.
No.
And they're talking about an ice show at Excalibur. I totally forgot. Possible ice skating show at Excalibur by Cirque du Soleil. Possibly replacing Tournament of Kings that's there right now. So I had the question whether it was Crystal or not, and no one could confirm or deny that. So we might see Crystal in Vegas? Question mark? Big mark?
Well, I would love to see Crystal in Vegas. It doesn't make sense to put it in that hotel, that resort. It doesn't fit with the whole.
Well, it doesn't make sense at Luxor either.
I feel like Tournament of Kings is a show that makes sense at the Excalibur.
Yeah.
It goes for the theming.
I've never seen that show, but here in Toronto we've got a show called Medieval Times, which is that very similar kind of thing. And if you're staying at the Excalibur, that just seems like a kind of show that goes really well with staying at a place.
You know where Crystal would have made sense? At Aria.
It would have, yeah.
Because it kind of fits with the building. They have crystals, but at City Center, that would have been great.
That would have been too much, though.
No, I would have loved it.
But here's the thing: going back to the theming, though, you just have to remember that MGM basically, excuse my French, f's up every single property they've ever owned. Everything's gone to shit. So, thank you, MGM Resorts International. So there's no theming left. Well, just getting pink carpets and cosmopolitan-looking chandeliers. It's all changed. They don't care.
Well, right, because Vegas is changing, so
right. So the theming doesn't make. There's not a lot of theming left of medieval stuff at Excalibur at this point. They pretty much took all that away when MGM took over. So there's a Cal on the outside, but that's about it.
That is all for today's episode. Don't forget to check us out on CirqueCast.com or YouTube YouTube/CirqueCast as well. And we will see you on the next episode.
Hey, Cirque wine.